Welcome in. We're diving into the world of Danish diplomacy today, using Bastian Friborg's diplomacy in Denmark. It's kind of like a crash course, in Danish culture, but way more fun than just like cramming vocabulary.
Absolutely more fun. Yeah, this isn't just about like memorizing diplomatic protocols, right? It's about understanding the Danish mindset,
Yeah.
their values, even their sense of humor to actually navigate their world effectively.
Okay, so let's unpack that. I mean, one of the first things that really stood out to me in the book was Freiburg's point about Denmark being more than just, another Nordic country.
Right, it's easy to kind of like lump them all together,
Huh.
But as the book points out, Denmark, it has its own like distinct cultural DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the keys to really understanding them is this phrase, Danes do not lead, they coach.
Okay, so what does that mean in practice? Because, like, that sounds like my kind of boss, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, imagine a workplace where like even interns are encouraged to voice their opinions,
Right.
where there's like a high level of trust in employees to manage their own, workloads, make decisions. That's kind of the Danish model in action.
Wow. So no micromanaging allowed.
No,
Okay.
we're go-
I'm starting to see why Denmark consistently ranks as like one of the happiest countries.
exactly. But it's not just about being nice or
Yeah.
avoiding confrontation, right? This whole coaching mentality, it's rooted in centuries of history from, their Viking heritage where like local communities thrived on autonomy to the Protestant values of individual responsibility and equality.
Right, right. It's like that egalitarian spirit it's woven into their cultural fabric.
It really is.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder how does that play out when you're actually, sitting across the table from them trying to, I don't know, say negotiate a trade deal or something.
Right, right. And that's where things get really interesting because this whole emphasis on equality and directness, it translates into a communication style that can be quite surprising if you're not prepared for it.
Yeah, because the book calls it refreshingly direct,
Mm.
but I imagine it could also be a bit jarring, right? If you're used to a more, shall we say, diplomatic approach.
Absolutely. They value clarity, efficiency, so don't be surprised if they, cut right to the chase in a meeting.
Mhm.
And their humor, oh man, let's just say it can be a bit drier, and more ironic than what you might be used to.
So how do you strike the right balance then?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to come across as unprepared or worse, offend anyone.
Right. And Freiburg really highlights the importance of understanding the context. Danes aren't trying to be rude. They're just very practical and result oriented. So the key is to be prepared to have done your homework and to be ready to just engage in a frank and open discussion.
So what you're saying is leave the long-winded presentations, the vague pronouncements at home.
Precisely. Danes, they respect expertise and a straightforward approach.
Gotcha. Now, shifting gears just slightly here, the book also delves into the concepts of hidge and pragmatism. And I have to admit, these both sound very appealing.
Oh yeah, they're fantastic concepts.
Yeah.
Hygge is often translated as coziness,
Right.
but it's so much more than just like, candles and comfy blankets. It's that feeling of warmth, connection, contentment that Danes cultivate in all aspects of their lives, and that includes the workplace.
So it's about creating a positive and supportive environment, even in a professional setting.
Exactly. And this ties into their pragmatism, right? Danes, they value work-life balance, and they're not afraid to set boundaries. They're efficient, they get things done, but they also prioritize family, friends, and personal time.
Which again probably contributes to their overall happiness.
I
Yeah.
think so, yeah.
Yeah. Now, one thing that surprised me was the significant role that unions play in Danish society. The book mentions that roughly 70 to 80% of the workforce is unionized. That's huge.
It's one of the highest rates in the world.
Wow.
And it really speaks to their emphasis on social responsibility and collective bargaining.
Mm-hmm.
Unions, they have a powerful voice in shaping labor policies and understanding their influences. It's really crucial for anyone looking to do business in Denmark.
Yeah, it's like you're trying to understand the rules of the game before you step onto the playing field.
Right.
You need to know who the key players are and how they operate.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like that. You wouldn't want to, walk into a negotiation without understanding the role that unions play in, like, setting wages or influencing workplace culture and all of that.
Right. Makes total sense. Okay, so we've covered work culture, communication,
Yeah.
even a bit of philosophy, I'd say, with the Hidge. What about the political landscape? Is it as straightforward as it might seem from the outside?
That's where things can get a little bit tricky, I'd say, even for seasoned diplomats. The book, it points out that while Denmark, it has a well-structured government,
Hmm.
the power dynamics can be quite nuanced.
Give us an example.
Okay, we'll take the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, right? In a lot of countries, that's the go-to for anything, diplomacy related. But in Denmark, it actually plays more of a coordinating role.
Interesting. So if you're like a diplomat who's trying to actually like get things done, who do you call?
You've got to be strategic,
Mm.
and the book actually suggests that often contacting the relevant sector ministries directly might actually be more efficient.
Huh.
You need to pinpoint the expert, the person with their fingers on the pulse of that specific issue.
It's like going straight to the source, cutting through the red tape a little bit.
Exactly, exactly. And this goes back to the Danish pragmatism that we were talking about. Like, they value efficiency. So if you can demonstrate that you understand their system, you're prepared to engage directly with the relevant stakeholders, like you're gonna earn their respect.
That's a great tip. Now let's talk about navigating the Danish media landscape. The book refers to them as the untamed watchdog, which sounds kind of intense.
Yeah, it's an apt description. Danish journalists, they're known for their fierce independence,
Hmm.
their direct style of questioning,
Yeah.
and their deep sense of national pride. Status alone won't get you a free pass here.
So no fawning over diplomatic titles or anything.
Not a chance. They're much more interested in what you have to say, how it impacts Denmark, and whether you can back it up with
Yeah.
solid facts.
So what's the playbook then? I
Yeah.
mean, how do you approach the Danish media effectively?
First and foremost, be prepared. Do your research, anticipate their questions, and have, clear, concise answers ready. They're not afraid to challenge you, and they'll see right through any, fluff or ambiguity.
Yeah, it's like they can sniff out a canned response a mile away or something.
Exactly, exactly. Authenticity is key. Be genuine, be knowledgeable, and be prepared to engage in a respectful but frank exchange.
This is all this is all great advice, but it does make me wonder, like smaller embassies, especially, maybe those without dedicated local staff, it must be kind of an uphill battle, right? Trying to navigate all of this.
You're right. You're right. And the book even suggests that hiring local Danish staff could be a real game changer for these smaller embassies.
It kind of like bridge that cultural and communication gap, right? Yeah.
Precisely. They can help with everything from understanding the nuances of the media landscape to deciphering those kind of like insider conversations that happen in Danish.
It's like having a cultural interpreter by your side, kind of helping you to read between the lines.
Exactly. And that can be invaluable, especially in a country like Denmark, where so much emphasis is placed on kind of understanding the unwritten rules of the game.
Right, right. Now, for kind of a fascinating comparison, the book actually draws this parallel between diplomats and dot lobbyists, and it's not the most obvious pairing at first, but it does kind of make you think.
It's actually more accurate than you might think at first. They obviously operate in very different spheres, but Friborg really argues that there are really striking similarities in the skill sets required and how their functions often intertwine.
Okay, break it down for us. Like what makes a good diplomat and a good lobbyist?
Well, the book highlights 5 key competencies: networking, strategic thinking, integrity, communication,
Yeah.
and analytical skills. And these might sound like, prerequisites for any profession, right?
Mm.
But these take on a special kind of nuance, I think, in diplomacy and lobbying.
So it's about more than just like, people skills, right? You need to be able to like read a room, understand the motivations of all the players involved, and then strategize accordingly.
Precisely. And you need to do it all while maintaining your integrity, and building trust. Both diplomats and lobbyists rely heavily on the reputation for honesty and reliability.
It's like a high stakes game of chess, but instead of, moving pieces on a board, you're actually like, navigating relationships and policies and public perception.
That's a great analogy, and just like in chess, every move matters. You need to be thinking, several steps ahead. Anticipate your opponent's next move,
Yeah.
and always be prepared to adjust your strategy as needed.
Makes sense. Now, with a better understanding of kind of the why here, let's dive into a little bit of the how. The book, it provides this really practical toolkit for thriving in the Danish diplomatic landscape with
Yeah.
specific do's and don'ts for engaging with different stakeholders.
It's all about understanding those kind of subtle cultural cues and communication styles that can really, make or break a deal.
All right, so give us the inside scoop. What are some of the most important do's and don'ts to keep in mind?
Well, we've touched on a few already, like being on time. Punctuality is non-negotiable in Danish culture,
Hmm.
but it goes beyond that. Like, remember their love of efficiency and direct communication.
Hmm.
That extends to how they approach meetings.
So no rambling, no going off on tangents or anything. Get to the point.
Exactly. Come prepared with a clear agenda. Be concise in your communication, and don't be afraid to get straight to the heart of the matter.
Got it. No need to beat around the bush at all.
Precisely. And here's another important don't rely solely on formal titles or hierarchies to get things done. Remember that egalitarian spirit we were talking about? It runs deep.
So even if you're like meeting with someone in a very senior position, it's still important to kind of treat them as an equal in a way.
Absolutely. They value expertise and a collaborative approach.
Uh-huh.
Don't be afraid to share your ideas, even if you're the most junior person in the room.
So it's about finding that balance then between respect and a willingness to engage in frank, open dialogue.
Exactly. And this might seem a little counterintuitive, but don't be overly reliant on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to get things done.
Which we touched on a little bit earlier. It's about going straight to the source, the relevant ministry, the relevant expert for your specific needs.
You got it. It demonstrates a deeper understanding of how things actually work in Denmark. It shows that you've done your homework and you're serious about building a mutually beneficial relationship.
It's like that old adage, right? Like, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. But in this case, it's teach a diplomat to navigate the Danish system.
And you've empowered them to thrive in this unique cultural landscape.
I love it. This deep dive has been so insightful. I'm starting to think like we could all benefit from a little dose of Danish pragmatism and hidge in our lives. Are we ready to wrap things up here?
Absolutely. Let's bring it all together here for our listener.
So for our listener out there, who's thinking, okay, this is all fascinating, but like, what's the key takeaway for me? What's the one thing they should really remember as they navigate their own interactions in Denmark?
I think that the biggest takeaway here is that the success in Denmark, it really hinges on understanding and respecting their cultural nuances. It's about more than just learning a few Danish phrases or mastering the art of the business hidge. It's about really embracing their values, their communication style, and their approach to work and life.
Right. It's about understanding that hidge. It's not just about, candles and cozy blankets. It's a philosophy that kind of permeates their entire culture from the workplace to their social lives.
Exactly. And that their pragmatism, it isn't about being, cold or unemotional. It's about, valuing efficiency, directness, and finding solutions that work for everyone involved.
And let's not forget that emphasis on equality, right? I mean, whether you're talking to a CEO or an intern, that egalitarian spirit, it really shines through.
Absolutely. And Friborg, he makes a great point in the book when he compares diplomats to lobbyists.
Right.
And you might think, at first glance that they're worlds apart, right?
Yeah.
But in reality, they share a really common set of skills.
Hmm.
Networking, strategic thinking, communication. It's really about adapting those skills to the specific context of Danish culture.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive into Danish diplomacy here, what's the one kind of provocative thought we can leave our listener with, something to mull over, maybe even spark some further exploration.
Well, the book, it argues that smaller embassies could really benefit from hiring local, Danish staff.
Hmm.
But what if we took that a step further? What
Yeah.
if what if any organization, whether it's, a multinational company or a nonprofit or even, an arts foundation, what if they considered this approach?
You mean going beyond just hiring for language skills, but actually like seeking out that deeper cultural understanding and context?
Right. Exactly. Imagine the possibilities if you had, someone on your team who could not only translate the language, right, but also the cultural nuances, the unspoken rules, the things that really make Denmark unique. Could that be a game changer? I think so.
It's about recognizing that cultural intelligence, it's a valuable asset. It's something that's worthy of real investment.
Absolutely, absolutely. And on that note, we'll leave you to explore those excerpts from Diplomacy in Denmark, and armed with this newfound knowledge, you're well equipped to navigate the intricacies of Danish culture and really forge those successful collaborations.
Until next time, then, happy exploring.